Okay, we are back. Again, if you're just joining us, welcome. We are glad you could join us this evening. Okay, again, I'd like to share our breaking news again, hot off the press, coming directly from our Dallas ISD Superintendent, Dr. Michael Hinojosa. Starting September 8th, the first 4 weeks of school will be virtual for all Dallas ISD students. Again, virtual learning for all Dallas ISD students from September 8th through October 6th, after which it will be reassessed to determine how we will proceed further. Our next session is Effective Parent Engagement Strategies while Learning Virtually. It will be presented today by Mr. Rene Martinez. A little background information about Mr. Martinez. He has over 40 years of experience in educational advocacy with both public and private education institutions in the Dallas area. He was a Dallas ISD administrator for over 17 years as special assistant to the superintendent, as well as executive director for parental engagement and youth mentoring. He currently teaches at Dallas College, as well as does consultant work for various nonprofits and school districts. Mr. Martinez, if you're ready, I will turn it over to you at this time.
Okay. Once we go face-to-face in the classroom with kids in 4 weeks after school starts, language can be a challenge. All the communications from your school, from your teachers, from your campus should be in both languages. And in some cases, they're going to be other languages. But the vast majority of our parents and students are Spanish speaking. So you should get notices, letters, any type of emails in both languages. And if you don't, you've got to tell your teacher. You've got to tell your principal that you've got to be able to get those notes, those messages. Most of you have smartphones. That communication has to be in both languages. Make sure that every program, once school starts and you're going back to school, your child's back to school, that those programs allow you to participate, okay? That they will allow you to participate in the PTA, that will allow you to be a volunteer, that will allow you to be involved in your school. And we'll talk more about being involved with your teachers. What are the things that you should be able to do as a parent in terms of involvement? I'm going to check them off. What are the things that you do virtually, through technology, and what are you going to do face-to-face? Virtually now, you're going to have to meet with your teachers virtually. You're going to have to set up an appointment. You're going to have to set up time. And of course, virtual has some advantages too. Because if you're working, you can do it, if you can get permission to do it while you're at the workplace, during your break, if it's feasible. If you're at home, you've got to make some time to talk to your teacher on an ongoing basis in terms of your students' performance. So that's virtual. Prioritize your time. You've got to prioritize your time virtually, of course, because you're going to be helping your student with homework, with tutoring, with lesson plans. So organize your schedule. Some parents can work at home. Some parents will not have that luxury. So they will have somebody else helping their student at home. But if you do stay at home, organize your time, prioritize your time, prioritize your space of where you're going to be able to be involved with that parent conference, with teachers, your campus administrator, and others on the campus. Tell your teacher what your interest is. When school starts face-to-face, you should volunteer. What is your area of expertise? What are the things that you can do as a parent to get involved, to come out and tutor, to come out and help in the school? Okay? So the teacher needs to know what that expertise is. Select your days of involvement. If it's 1 day a week, great. If it's Saturday school, that's great. Select the time that you can come and be involved. Bottom line is you as a parent you have to remember that the more involvement you have with your teacher dealing with your child in academics, whether it's virtual or face-to-face, your student is going to gain academically, is going to grow academically. Many years ago when I was at Spence Middle School, my mother could not speak any English, but she did something that she knew she could do. She'd give us rides, the basketball team, to games. That's all she could do because she could not communicate in English. So she did what was available for her to do. And it meant a lot to me as a 13, 14-year-old to see my mom take us to games and be there. That's very important for children to see their parents, their aunts, uncles, grandparents, knowing that they're involved in their schools, in their children's education. Once you get back to face-to-face, if you want to get more involved in the school, get clearance. Clearance means you can go online, fill out a form so that you can be a volunteer. You can go on field trips with your child. You can be more involved with your student. And then document some of the things that you're going to be doing. It's good to document the days that you got involved, the things that you did. It's a good record for you to keep in terms of involvement. Request training. Right now in this pandemic, some of you are not going to be able to know how to go online. If you have a laptop, a smartphone, obviously you can. But request training from your teacher, from your principal. Basic computer literacy. Some of you will know how to do it very well and some will not. So request that type of training. It's available for you. Attend meetings. Some of the meetings of the PTA, join the PTA. They're going to be virtual. So recommend that to the principal that you want to be involved virtually, or once you do face-to-face, join the PTA. Your involvement is super important. My mother, again, as I mentioned, because I use her as an example, did not speak any English, was involved at Travis Elementary, and guess what? She got elected president of the PTA because she wanted to be involved in the life of her sons. And both of us got to be college grads, basically because we saw my mother involved. She had that passion, those ganas in Spanish that was important to us as students. Volunteer for trips. There's going to be obviously field trips going on once school comes back face to face. Recruit other parents. Talk to your comadres and your compadres and say, hey, you know what? You've got kids in my school. Come and volunteer. Come and help us. That's going to be helpful. And then finally, go out and find resources for your school. Our schools are going to need a lot of resources. So it's good with your community contacts to do that. And then join some of the programs that already exist in the schools. There's going to be programs like Avante, like Hippie. They're going to help you train to be better parents, more involved with your kids. So there's going to be a lot of parents, but you have to ask your teachers, ask your campus administrators. And then once you get involved, let's go to the third slide, dealing with parent conferences. That's the tough one. Some parents are going to say, well, you know, I don't have an education. I can't ask smart questions. There's no dumb questions when it comes to education. You just need to know what your child is doing, how they're doing, where they are academically and in growth. Are they at grade level? And those are the questions you have to ask your teacher. You know, they're basic questions. Is my child at grade level, reading-wise, math-wise? And if they're not, how can I help besides the virtual education, besides what they're getting at school? How can I help? How can I help in tutoring? How can I get them into Saturday school? How do I get them into after-school programs? So when you meet with a teacher, parent conferences usually in October and in I think March or February, have a list of things that you want to ask. Things that deal with your student. Are they struggling in math? Are they struggling in multiplication tables? Are they struggling in terms of language proficiency? Are they struggling in terms of literacy? Where are they struggling? And be able to come to that parent conference and ask those questions. How is my child doing? How are they doing on tests? Where do they stand in terms of performance? Not just exams in school, but in terms of state administered exams. At what level are they? At what percentile are they? So list out those questions that you're going to ask your teacher. Be knowledgeable about those exams, the STAR exams. If you don't know about STARs, ask your teacher about it. Google them up. Everybody has a smartphone. Google up STARs. What it assesses the student. Okay? So learn more about all the assessments and evaluations that your students are taking. And then prepare your students every day to get good sleep, good nutrition, good diet, eating. You know, if they're going to be doing virtual, if they have snacks and have their meals at home. More importantly, that your child has enough sleep and rest before they get online with a virtual classroom or when they go back to school, especially when they're about ready to take exams. Course offerings. If you're confused about what your child is taking in class, in school, ask your teacher. You know, what is this class? What is this course? What's later on, when the kids get older, what's TAG, talented and gifted? What's an advanced placement? You know, what are the choice schools? Listen, again, write a list of things that you want to ask. And you start with your teacher. You start with your teacher aide and your teacher. You start with your counselor. And then eventually, if you don't get those answers, you've got to ask your principal. Set up an appointment to be able to meet with that principal. Be totally aware also of all the rules and policies that you learned earlier today about attendance. The code of conduct is very important. You should get a manual from your principal regarding the code of conduct. So that's very important. Every classroom teacher will have a discipline plan. You should know what the rules and policies are for that discipline plan. Again, keep the log, a diary of what you're doing, keep notes on how your child is doing. Do not be afraid to help your child, whatever grade level they are. Just because you don't have a college education or enough education, you can help your child by providing a learning environment at home and learning support when they go back to school in your hometown. So those are three things. Again, just to recap, there's obstacles, there's challenges, there's going to be techniques for you to get involved and ways you get involved, and then there's very specific things that you're going to be doing with parent conferences and teachers. Questions?
Okay, thank you, Mr. Martinez. Just a few questions here. The first one is, how can parents go the extra mile to make sure they are being engaged with the teachers while virtual learning?
Well, again, that extra mile is a challenge. It's technology, number one. Because between now and, as Dr. Noah said, until October 7th, we're going to have to do all this like we're doing it right now. So being able to set your time, communicate with your principal or your teacher, especially your teacher, and use whatever platform you're going to be using. Whether it's Zoom, through your smartphone. Dr. Johnson got me on a phone, even though you can see me, but I'm on my phone too. So make that time, make that priority, and write a list of what you have to ask, of what you're going to ask. How is your student doing? Is that student struggling? And be able to ask those intelligent questions.
Okay, we thank you for that. Let's see here, if we have any more, I think that's all of our questions for now. Is there anything else, Mr. Martinez? We have just a couple of minutes. Is there anything else you'd like to share?
Yeah, let me just close because I know a lot of people out there and I know we're translating, so let me kind of do it real quick in both languages. Padre, es sumamente importante. Parents, it's very important right now with the pandemic, con esta pandemia que tenemos, para seguir siendo involucrados con estos niños. To keep our involvement high. Nos vamos a frustrar. We're going to get very frustrated. But at the very same time, we have to keep our children safe. Tenemos que tener la seguridad y la salud de nuestros niños. Tienen que ser educados, tienen que hallar un ambiente donde pueden educarse y aprender. You have to be vigilant, make sure your kids are safe and secure, and find that environment that's safe and secure at home.
Okay. Well, that concludes our third session of the evening. We'd like to thank Mr. Rene Martinez for sharing his time and expertise with us this evening. Thank you, Mr. Martinez, and I'm glad that we got through those technical difficulties. We made some flexible adjustments, and we were able to get it done. So I appreciate you.
Flexibility.
Your flexibility is key during this time, isn't it? Thumbs up to you, too. Thank you, Mr. Martinez. We look forward to working with you again in the future. I have a feeling he's going to be around helping us. We have lots of different things we're going to be doing with the Family and Community Engagement Department this year, and I have a feeling Mr. Martinez is going to be a great asset for us. So thank you, Mr. Martinez. Have a good evening. Okay, parents. At this time, we're going to pause for a moment and prepare for our fourth session of the evening. What about the children? Where can I go? And it's a presentation brought to you by the Dallas ISD Homeless Education Program. So stay tuned and we will be right back.